You talk about debts and loans. Growing up, you'd hear our parents saying they raised you na loans. Ilikuwa huyu akimaliza anachukua mwingine hivyo loans. Na you'll find some being encouraged usiogope loans, chukua tu loans. And I also encountered a gentleman who once told me that unajua pesa yako inasaidia watu wengine when you save it in the bank. So how about you use other people's money as well to get loans and, you know, grow yourself in that way. So when we talk about loans and debts, what are the kinds of debts that we should be getting into and which ones shouldn't we be getting into?
Okay. Thank you, Mwikali. I'll say the issue about debt, it's more of a mindset thing.
Yes.
Because if you believe that you cannot do without debt, then that is what will happen. So in this case, I'll say rule number one is avoid debt.
Yes.
But if you can't avoid it or you are already in it, then I'd like you to think through it, like what made you go into debt? Because you find like currently somebody tells you like, I don't have money for supper, let me try go to M-Shwari. So somebody gets into debt in order to survive. You need to use your income to survive. So of course there is a bad debt.
Okay.
So I'll say bad debt is any debt that you get into to either acquire an asset that will be having the value reducing, depreciating in time. So in that case, you find like, for example, you've gone for 500,000 and the asset that you've bought, maybe it's something that loses value. So at the end of it, you won't pay back the bank the 500,000. You'll pay it with interest. The other thing I'll say is, okay, let me maybe go to the side of a good debt. Maybe they say no debt is good, but in case we are to have a good debt, I'll say if you go into debt, for example, maybe you want to do an investment. So what you need to consider is what is the return on this investment.
Yeah.
If I'm to take a debt of 500,000 and invest maybe and earn 200,000 in return, so the return will be 200,000. But how much interest am I paying to the bank? So if there'll be a trade-off whereby the income you get from investing the debt is higher than the cost of financing the debt, plus you know there is inflation.
Yes.
If I told you it's a long-term debt, maybe 4 years, 5 years, you need to look at inflation. So in that case, you're looking at the time value for money, and also is the income that I get, the interest income or the investment income, higher enough to cover for the principal debt amount and the interest in it. Otherwise, if it is the reverse, then there's nothing you're doing. You're just digging a ditch yourself. And you find like we have a rat race. Like, for example, maybe the salary comes in, you have maybe a salary advance, it's swallowed. So you go into debt, then you remember like, I cannot meet even the must-haves. I cannot meet my needs. You go into debt to maybe Timiza. You pick Timiza to pay Tala. Then you borrow from Tala to reduce M-Shwari. So I'll say, in that case, what you need to do is debt management.
Yes.
You need to just be true to yourself, like, I'm in a stressful situation, I made mistakes. And funny thing, you may find somebody, they have a pay slip, maybe the pay slip says they have a million balance to the bank. You ask them, what did you do with this debt? They cannot even account for it. Yeah. So you find there are so many factors you need to consider. Like you'll be told like you have a good credit score. So Mwikali, you can take this amount, or maybe you have some savings in the circle and they tell you can take 3 times. So some people will just get enticed like, oh, I want 3 times. But had you budgeted enough, had you maybe thought through and planned how to spend that and to ensure that you earn the income, the returns will be more than what you are just getting yourself into. Do you know the interest rates? Do you know like the nitty-gritties? Are there any additional charges? So for me, I'll say there is no good debt, but if there needs to be one, then the income that you'll receive after investing that debt should be higher than the cost of finance.
You know, I realized there's no good debt when you said, let me talk about the good debt. And by the time you were done explaining the good debt, we were already bad debting.
Yes.
So I was like, wasn't that supposed to be a good debt? But then there's also that side of it. So we've seen people who get into loans to take their children to school and stuff. So they tie that up with their salary. Is that something that you would recommend because it's needed, but you don't have money for that?
Yeah, I'll say sometimes we go into debt because of circumstances, and I'll say we come from different backgrounds.
That's true.
So maybe one can survive without it, one can survive without it. But I'll say like right now, okay, maybe for those who are not yet there, maybe your kid is in grade 5.
Yes.
You know, at one point, this child will have to go to high school.
Yes.
What can you do now to ensure that when that time comes, you have something? Can you, we have the account for children, the junior accounts. Can you start saving? So you find like, if you are consuming everything, you'll end up into debt. But if you start saving early, and let me address, maybe there's somebody who did not do the saving, and right now they have to take their kids to school. Maybe it's I say, like, right now you have the short terms, like in a year. So I'll say find, maybe like try to do a comparison in the market. For example, are you in a SACCO? Because one thing I know is SACCO loans are way cheaper than maybe other financial issues. So just do a research on yourself and like see, where can I go and borrow this money? Where can I get the favorable interest rate? But if at all you have children, start planning for them early enough. Yes.
And I think it goes back to where this